all along, recently you had said that an expiring contract was not preferable, and using the TPE in season was not preferable, and yet you did both of those things. What led to that?
Just the opportunity to get a good player that we think that can be with us longer than just this year potentially, and we feel like he was a good enough player to add.
Mark Murphy.
Morning, Danny.
Good morning, Mark.
How much of a player do you anticipate being in the buyout market?
You know, we never know that, Mark, but we will explore that for sure.
Keith Smith.
Hey, Danny, with the Daniel Tice trade, how much of a factor was him being a pending free agent? And also, was part of the moves yesterday to free up time for some of the younger players on the roster?
I would say that the free up the time for the younger roster was not necessarily. I mean, we do like our younger roster. Yeah, I think sometime next week we'll have Romeo back as well. We think they've played very well. So we have the fact that we have confidence in our younger roster is certainly a factor. What was the first question? Daniel Tice's free agent and pending. Yeah, I think there's part of that, sure.
Bob Schron.
Morning. Thanks, Brandon. Morning, Danny. How you doing, baby?
Bobby, how you doing?
I'm okay, good. I asked a similar question to you a lot, but you've won 3 championships this season. Can you put a quick analysis of what has been difficult to this point in getting? You have a championship vision, and I know you had it for this team. What's been the problem as you see it?
Boy, consistency. I feel like since the beginning of the season, it's been a challenge for us for whatever reason. Won't make any excuses, but I feel like all year long I have seen a lot of good things on the court. I think that I generally focus more on the positives than the negatives, just by my nature. And I've seen so many good things in so many games this year, and yet there are moments and quarters and that have just been a disaster and just far below what we're capable of doing. And so I don't know all the answers, but I feel like it pretty much, I'd say most games, I feel that with 30 or 32 minutes of the game, we play really, really well and do a lot of good things. And I don't know why we're not able to sustain it. Sometimes we get behind, and then our great play comes when we're making a comeback. Sometimes we get a big lead in the first half and we can't sustain it going in the fourth quarter. So it's been an interesting year. I don't have all the answers. I'm asking those same questions myself. Obviously, defensive intensity has been a staple of this team over the good positive runs over the last handful of years, and that hasn't been there. Our defensive consistency just hasn't been there. We've had good stretches, good 10-game stretches, good 15-game stretches, but we've had our defense has been subpar.
Gary Washburn.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Gary.
Good to see you. I guess you could have easily said, listen, this team is mediocre. It is what it is. I'm not going to sacrifice the future for the present. I'm just going to play this out and see what happens this summer with this TPE. What encouraged you to make a deal? Do you have faith in this team that it can compete with the Brooklyns and the Milwaukees and Philadelphias?
I'm not sure that, Gary. That's but I also feel an obligation to more than just we're dealing with people here, and I feel like we're trying to get better all the time, every trade deadline, every off season. And I felt like there was an opportunity, and we felt like there was more than one opportunity, but there were some of them didn't work out. But with Evan in particular, I thought that this opportunity was unique, and to add a player of his caliber. We've talked often about shooting with size. There's a 6'7" kid that is a good shooter, good playmaker, can handle the ball. Just another creator for us, and very consistent player. And we're excited to add him. And I think it is a good use of our TPE. And what the future stores, when we acquire Evan, we don't acquire him with the idea that he's going to be with us for just this year. We acquire him with the idea that he potentially can be here for a long time, like all the players that we acquire.
Mark Murphy.
Hey, especially with trading Daniel to Chicago, what does this mean for Rob Williams? Are you guys ready for him to take that next step minutes-wise?
Well, Rob has been our best defensive center so far this year, and I think everybody knows that. He's improved a great deal. He's come a long way in defending the pick and rolls, and he still has a long way to go. We think he still has even a bigger upside ahead of him. But yeah, it's going to be a bigger role for Rob at this moment.
Brian Robb.
Hey, Danny, you guys have had some real struggles in the fourth quarter this year. How much do you think Evan's skill set will just help you guys in those spots?
Yeah, I think his experience will help. His skills, his versatility. Again, a 6'7" guy that can handle the ball some. He could play some 1, he could play some 2, he could play some 3. He can play in lineups that switch 1 through 4 or 1 through 5. I think he brings a lot of versatility, and he's an added weapon, offensive weapon for Brad to use. And it alleviates a little bit of the burden and pressure on Jalen and Jason and Kemba to have to create so much. So I think that I think that could help just the burden that he may play throughout the course of the game, and his abilities and skills to make big shots in the fourth quarter as well.
Jared Weiss.
Apologies if I missed this at the beginning, but the TPE was an opportunity to bring some long-term stability. So when you're bringing in Evan on an expiring deal, do you intend to be aggressive in giving him the best offer and retaining him in free agency?
Jared, I can't talk about negotiations with impending free agents. Sorry about that, but we hope to have Evan around, just like we do with other players we acquire. We hope to have him around for longer than just the remaining part of this year.
John Corrales.
Danny, what was the plan going in to this deadline? Was Evan part of a bigger plan for you as far as acquiring players? And you have about 11 million left on the traded player exception. What's the likelihood of using that?
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know. I mean, as we all know, like there's a lot of discussion about TPE. Most of our trade discussions were not involving the TPE. They're just doing more traditional trades. But this opportunity came along for Evan, and without having to give up any of our core and add a good player that is at the right age, we think, to fit with our group of guys and experience, and a chance to go forward with our core group.
Gary Washburn.
Danny, when you put together a roster like this season where you had high hopes and the start went well, then things kind of don't go as well. How patient can you be before you say, okay, you look in the mirror and say, okay, Danny, I gotta do something. I've got to shake some things up. Like what I put together didn't work. And was this kind of like something that is this kind of saying that what you put together wasn't as effective as you thought?
Gary, I think that, yeah, it hasn't been as effective as I thought. Again, I don't know all the reasons why. Like there shouldn't be a reason why, we go from a fifth best defense in the NBA to, I don't even know what our ranking is now, but it's not good. That shouldn't have anything to do with talent. But I mean, obviously it does have a lot to do with defensive size and length and intensity. But I think that, our team has not lived up to it. This is a team I put together. I'm the one responsible for it. I think that but you talked about patience. Like, I think I'm very, very patient. I've been at this a long time. I think there's a time to overreact. I didn't feel pressure to do any of these things. I feel that this is a deal I would have done at any time over the last few years, probably with this opportunity. But I guess the greatest pressure is just, I want our players to feel hope, and I want our coach to feel hope. And I sense some discouragement, internally with our guys. And so, that was one reason why we did something now as opposed to waiting somewhere down the road.
Abby Chin.
Good morning, Danny.
Good morning, Abby.
Good morning. I'm just curious how the addition of the play-in tournament, do you feel like, has that changed the landscape, and was it any different this year at the deadline?
Good question, Abby. I think that it seems to be a little bit different in that I think teams are trying to, there's always buyers and sellers and in between, teams that are in the middle that are not certain which direction they go and might be determined to be sellers when they're on the fence. But I think that the buy-in tournament just feels like there are more teams that are trying to get better. There's not very many teams at all that are trying to just give players away and trade players away for future. And many less teams so it could have something to do with the 10 seeds still being in the game.
Gary Washburn.
Hey, Danny, 2 questions. What were the indications that you saw discouragement with the players and the coaches? Will Fournier be in Milwaukee? Is he in Milwaukee? Will he be available? And what about Tristan? When do you sense he'll be out of protocol?
Yeah, so I don't know the answer on Tristan. I just know him and Romy are still in the protocol and hopefully next week sometime, but I'm not sure. Fournier will not be in Milwaukee tonight. Well, I'm sorry, Gary. What was your question there? Was that it? Did I answer the questions?
You're never going to answer all my questions, Danny.
Okay, but go ahead, Gary.
When did you get the sense? When did you see discouragement? When did you get the sense that the roster, the players, and Brad and the staff was just getting discouraged about what was going on?
Well, I've been around the team a lot, throughout this season. I've been stuck in Boston in my office often when I'm alone, when the team's on the road, but I talk to Brad mostly every day. I talk to the players. I'm around the team in the locker rooms, and I can just sense a feeling of discouragement and frustration, like what would happen with any team that's playing below what they believe they can play. So it's not any one incident or any one personality. There's a difference when things are going really well and when things aren't. And I know guys are trying. My coaching staff works relentlessly, and our players are working every day and putting in the time, and they go through stretches of, real optimism and hope, and I can see it in their play. And but when you're not living up to your expectations, the opportunity for discouragement and frustration creeps in, and I think that happens with every team, and happened with every team I've been associated with. And so there is optimism, and we get our team together, and we have team meetings and film sessions, and we go on a little run, but we're just not able to sustain it. And I just hope that by adding another veteran player that's a versatile shooter with size and versatility, I just think that that's going to give us a jolt.
All right, final question for Danny. We'll go to John Corrales.
Danny, when do you expect these guys to be available, and what's the plan for Mo Wagner and Cornette?
Yeah, Cornette and Wagner should be in either tonight in Milwaukee, or I know Cornette was driving from Chicago, so he may be, he's just an hour away from Milwaukee, so he'll get there. Wagner was in last night, came in last night for a physical this morning. And I don't know what, depending on all that, he may catch a plane to Milwaukee tonight as well. Evan is flying from Orlando. He has a family, a wife and child, and they will, and so he is flying in this morning, and will have his physical this afternoon. Won't be in Milwaukee tonight, but potentially could be in Oklahoma City tomorrow.
All right, we'll wrap it up right there. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, guys.